I'd like to bring the meeting of the Township Committee of Hamilton Township to order, Monday, October 21st, 2019. You'll stand for the flag salute. Ready?
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take your time. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the press of Atlantic City on January the 10th, 2019, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 16th, 2019. Mr. Gishard?
Present?
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
Mayor Schenker?
Here. We get a moment of silence for private reflection. Thank you. Item number 1, additions and deletions and late agenda items to be considered for action tonight. We have 2 items. One will be in the closed session. We have a motion.
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion.
A motion is second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 2, early public comment on agenda items excluding items that are listed for public hearings. Mike?
Yes, sir. Bruce Dry, 3B.
Mr. Mayor, I'll pass for now, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? That's it? Okay, we'll move on to item 3 then. Discussions, formal action may be taken. Item A is a proposed memorandum of understanding with CarMax Auto Superstores Incorporated. Jim Malley is here, our redevelopment rehabilitation attorney. If you could give us a little overview of what this is.
Sure, this is a resolution that is authorized under the statute to appoint an entity as a conditional redevelopment. And it allows, mainly, the main benefit for the township right now is allows the posting of an escrow.
Yeah, you just need to come to the microphone.
Allows the posting of an escrow to cover the township costs for any negotiations and discussions regarding a proposed redevelopment. This simply says that we're going to negotiate with this group for a period of 90 days, that they will post an escrow that pays for those costs, and that's basically what it is.
Okay, so there's no guarantees here or nothing like that?
No, none whatsoever.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none. We move to item 1, resolution approving memorandum of understanding with CarMax Auto Superstore Incorporated, authorizing the mayor to sign the same.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor,
No.
you want a roll call? You got it. Rita, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. B, banners in War Memorial Park. Mike, if you could bring us up to speed with this, please.
Yes, sir, Mayor.
Thank you.
We have a couple of posts out at War Memorial Park, and for as far back as I can remember, longer than me here, they put the volunteer groups put banners, they tie them to the posts, and they put them up for a few days or 30 days until the event occurs. And we received a complaint that it's a violation of our zoning ordinance. I spoke with Hannah, and it is not consistent with it's inconsistent with the zoning ordinance. So we need to look into it, decide whether the committee wants to have the attorney look at it, or apply for a variance, or what do we need to do to bring it into compliance, because it's very popular with the volunteer groups.
Okay, so these banners have been displayed for a long period of time. I see the one that's up there now. See them up there from time to time with events are coming up.
Yes.
So that would be the township's responsibility to apply for a variance, is that what you're saying?
It would.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So, anyone have any questions on this?
Let me understand that the township's responsibility and not the person that wants to put the banner up?
No.
Property is owned by the township. It's zoned a certain way. A sign of this sort is not a permitted use in the zone. Although it serves a public purpose for each of the public events that are done in the town, it would still require, technically under the zoning ordinance, some variance relief.
I understand that, but are you saying the township has to request a variance and not the party putting the sign up?
Well, technically, the township is permitting the sign to go on its property, so the township would be the applicant.
Okay.
We have so many
Yeah,
different
that would be-
organizations that utilize it, so if you went for each one of them, it would be very cumbersome, I would believe.
Yeah, do it through the committee.
And Bob, a variance would be the proper way to go than an amendment to the ordinance?
Well, that's something that Steve Filippone and I would have to discuss. Rezoning is always a possibility, but you got to be careful of spot zoning. And you're talking about township property, so you have to be careful of the appearance. I can report back to you at the next meeting, that's not a problem. I've learned that recently, the complaints, I've seen some emails. I haven't researched it, but I have been told that it's a non-permitted use.
Yeah, I think you've been putting this up for at least as long as I've been here, 25 years. You know, these signs are very informative, and it's very important that our public know that these events are going to take place, and our public enjoys them. So there should be no problem with, you know, having a variance, I think, to make sure that they're legal.
Okay,
I'll report back.
thank you. So we'll just put that on the side. Bob will give us a report next meeting, and we'll move from there. Item 4, public hearing, adoption of ordinances. A, ordinance 1908, 2019, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2, Chapter 66 of the Code of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees, tax abatement billing officer, and equipment operator.
You want me to-
Yeah, please.
This ordinance contains 2 positions. Neither one is a full-time new position. The first one, the tax abatement billing officer, would be a part-time position assigned to an existing full-time employee, an additional duty. And the other, the equipment operator, we're eliminating a laborer position and upgrading it to an equipment operator. Public Works, speaking with Brett, they think they need an additional operator, start training for the future.
So this doesn't change the number of employees?
Neither one of these changes the number of employees.
I see. All right.
Just
Are there any questions?
What is the amount that each one of these is going to be given?
Well, the equipment operator position is set by contract. I don't know the max salary on it, but it's set in the collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters.
Okay.
The other one, although we're setting it at $37,000 or $3,700, we're looking at $3,000 for the initial salary for that position.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to move ordinance,
Public hearing.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Sorry.
No, this has to go to the public.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to close the public portion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 1908-2019.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, Bob, you want a roll call on this? Rita, could you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Item B, ordinance 1909, 2019, an ordinance amending Chapter 276 towing ordinance for the Township of Hamilton. Mike, could you give us a little background on this, please?
I think Bob is going to take care of that.
Okay, Bob?
Yeah. Basically, this was an attempt to clean up the existing ordinance based on how it was operating and some things that needed to be cleaned up a little bit, some things that needed to be added. One of the things was that we increased the amount of insurance coverage that was required. And I want to comment on that for a moment because under the old ordinance, getting an umbrella for $1 million was not mandatory. And after the committee met along with the police department, not this committee, the subcommittee, it was thought that that should be mandatory. So in addition to the garage policies and general liability policies, we require a $1 million umbrella policy. The second part of the insurance change was that we made it such that the township had to be a named added insured, and we took the language that has been given to us, I think, from the JIF, but it's really good language. And as I've explained to you before, that means we not only get a defense, we don't pay the attorney's fees, but we also get indemnification to that level. So it's a double-tiered enhanced protection to the Township of Hamilton, the elected officials, the appointed officials. Should something happen, we have coverage at both levels. And then there's some other minor changes that help the chief of police in terms of the operation of the ordinance. There are really only 4 qualified entities that could bid this, and that is because the ordinance requires that the towing operation has to have a storage yard in the township. So there's only 4. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is that in drafting this, in one respect, I overdrafted something. I said that the added insured language applies to all policies required under the ordinance. There's 4 different policies. One of the policies is a workers' compensation policy. And I have learned since we introduced this ordinance that under New Jersey law, the township cannot be covered as an employee under a workers' compensation policy. And it is my opinion that you can still adopt this ordinance in the form that it's in because it has a severability clause. The requirement that we be named under the workers' comp is a legal impossibility. I'll amend that at a future date, but this can be enacted. It can be used now. The towers can do what they do to become eligible. And the fact that that's in there is not, in my opinion, a hindrance to the adoption of the ordinance at this time. So I've discussed it with Michael, and I think that administratively, as long as it is not applied, that is the workers' comp portion, across the board to whoever submits an application, we'll be fine.
Now, how does this affect the people who are doing the towing?
Well, there's a slight increase in their insurance cost. I should say slight, I don't know what it is. There's an increase in their insurance cost because they're buying an added policy. But the last time this ordinance was amended, the fee that could be charged was increased to $140.
Right.
So, I mean, I've talked to 1 or 2 of them, and it's not disturbing. I wasn't at the meeting when it was addressed with the towers. So everything else is really dealing with the operation of it, how it gets done, and the coverage and the defense.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Are there any other questions? What's your pleasure? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing. Are there any questions from the public?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A year ago, when there was an amendment for the raising the rates of the towing, personally, I had no objections to that. However, my only concern was the certificate of compliance. Has that changed on on this amendment?
It requires a certificate of occupancy to be a prerequisite to the issuance of a license. The certificate of compliance is the same under this adoption as it was under the old one. But to my knowledge, that's been done already.
I'm not sure what you mean.
I mean that there has been letters issued by zoning that said that compliance has occurred.
Oh, okay. So in other words, so that has not changed, in other words, correct?
That's true.
And there's a difference between compliance and occupancy, or is that?
There is.
Okay, so I guess, so does it remain a certificate of compliance? I guess is I'm just trying to be clear.
It does, and to my knowledge, that has occurred, I think, in December of 2018
Okay,
with respect to the 4 eligible
okay.
people.
So, so each year, there needs to be a new letter of compliance. If there's they apply each year to be on the towing list, I think?
They do, but I'm not so sure each year they need a separate certificate of compliance. I wasn't asked to research that.
Okay, but it's still required, though?
It is required.
Maybe not every year, but it's still required at some point?
It is required, yes.
It is required?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion second to close the public portion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll make a motion to move ordinance 1909-2019.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions? Hearing no questions, Rita, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
yes,
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Item 5, introduction of ordinances. Public hearing will be held November 12, 2019. Item A, ordinance 1910, 2019, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2 of Chapter 66, providing for maximum employee salaries. Mike, you want to give a little background on this, please?
Yes, sir. A while back, the committee approved a 2% increase effective January 1st of 2020.
Right.
There are 3 positions that will exceed their maximum salary once they get that 2% increase. So we need to tweak the salaries up a little bit so that they can get the 2% raise.
Okay.
It's fire prevention inspector, zoning official, and laborer hourly rate.
Okay. Committee?
I'll move to introduce ordinance 1910, 2019.
I'll second
Second.
that.
We have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 1910, 2019. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes,
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
Item 6, award of bids, contracts, change orders. A, resolution to approve change order number 3, final for the 2016 road program. Bid number 2016-07, decrease of $12,864.48.
like to move the resolution?
Second.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
Well, that means that we are $12,000 richer than,
Yes, we are.
Decreases are always good.
Decrease is good. Any other questions?
point that out.
Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link? Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Item B, resolution authorizing a proposal of additional engineering and construction management services for Tavistock at Mays Landing with Steve Philippone of EDA, not to exceed $4,000.
So moved.
Second,
I would just point out that that's not being paid by the township.
Exactly.
Comes
Yes,
out
this
of the
is out
money.
of the money left over from the original project there under the settlement agreement.
And what is that for? The,
We had monies left over after the original bids were awarded and all of those construction activities are done. 2 weeks ago, we had a change order for Arawak to remove and replace 25 sections of sidewalk, repair some storm inlets, to put a fence around the 6th basin out there, seal coat the parking lot of the community center, and seal coat 2 of the original roads. So it's for my time to put all of the details together to inspect and to do the construction management of the work that's going to occur.
Okay.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions? Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item C, resolution authorizing purchase of 2020 Ford F-150 4x4 from Winter Ford under state contract. Mike?
Yes, sir, this is for the Public Works Department. It's coming from bond money.
Mm-hmm.
We bonded.
Yep. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions. Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Consent agenda.
Is that a holiday boutique?
Holiday boutique.
It was just added.
I'll move it 7A through L, and that'll include the business registration on 7A of Holiday Boutique in the Hamilton Mall.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it. Personnel, resolution to hire Robert Mallory as a regular part-time fire prevention inspector at $20 per hour, effective date to be determined. Employment contingent upon successful completion of a background check, an employment physical, and a drug screening.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Excuse me, may I please have a roll call on that?
You sure can. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes,
All yes and carried.
thank you. Item 9, approvals. Minutes, regular meeting, October 7th, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and second. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. I want to make a note that I'm going to abstain for this. I wasn't here.
Aye.
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 4 yes, 1 abstention.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. B, minutes for the executive session, October 7th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Are there any questions? Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Abstain.
4 yes, 1 abstention. Motion carries.
Thank you. C, payroll and bills totaling $8,484,128.07.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Rita, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes,
All yes and carried.
thank you. Move to item 10, the reports. Mr. Administrator.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
Just one thing with respect to the potholes that are on the private lane next to the Tunney property going to the Lenape Plaza and to the McDonald's. I received a response today from the folks that purchased the Lenape Plaza. Their position was not a favorable one. They felt that for them, they could not go out there personally because they would be trespassers, and that they're agreeable to meet with the folks at McDonald's and the Tunneys. I have had no response from the Tra family or the Tunney family. So I followed up with it, and that's as far as I've gotten with it. I guess that's all I can tell you about it.
All right.
The Tunney family does not own that,
My understanding is some entity that is owned or controlled by the Tunney family owns that property. The statements that were given to me today from the folks that bought the Lenape Plaza is that McDonald's is not interested in doing anything. But that's hearsay, so I can't vouch for that.
yeah, well, most of their traffic does not use that.
The purpose of my letter was to put them on notice
Okay.
that, and I wrote in it that as a plaintiff's personal injury attorney, if someone got hurt there and I was representing them, I really would like to see Bob Sandman's letter, putting them on notice that they have a dangerous condition. So I'm still waiting to hear. It is a dangerous condition.
Yes, it is.
Can we flag that area off or cone it or something?
The problem is it's not even
It's used.
a right-of-way. It's private land. And one of the things I was thinking about today is that I was hoping to get a favorable response to my letter and that we wouldn't have to do anything. But, you know, if someone's grass is too high, we have the right to put them on notice, go out and cut it and lien the property. So that's going to be my next avenue of research.
Okay.
But this is unique.
Yeah, I understand. As a business owner, you would think that they would want to do it.
Yeah, there are a lot of trucks that go through that area, a lot of cars that go through that area.
Anything else, Bob?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Engineer?
Yeah, Mayor, I have a couple items. First, I want to start by talking about Cotton Mill Bridge. The county is out to bid. Bids will be received on October 30th. If all things go well, the path would be the county would review the bids over the first few days after they open them up on October 30th. The county tells me that if the bids come in and they make a favorable recommendation, it will go to the second freeholders meeting in November, which
End of the month.
late in November. There's going to be about a 2-week review by NJDOT after the freeholders, if the freeholders will make a favorable award of a contract. So we're looking at the middle of December will be the soonest that the county could start the project. They would also have a pre-construction meeting at about that time. So the soonest you will see any construction out there is the very middle of December. So in a perfect world.
Okay.
Steve, will there be information for the public once this occurs at that time to tell them what the routing is once the construction starts? And are there alternate routes that they can consider moving the public to rather than just sit in traffic for all those minutes?
The county, and I talk to them about it often, they will come in here. Once I request them to come in, they will have a public information session. I'll talk to the committee as we go along here. I'm thinking sooner rather than later. Let's see how the bids come in. Let's see if it will be a contract come, December. But they've given me a set of plans. There's information in there, but I have questions on some of the routes that they're, in the traffic control.
I have a question about the old Egg Harbor Road Bridge. A lot of people have talked to me and said I had no notification of it closing. How does the county notify people that are being affected by that? I know there's a lot of people, but like at Woods Landing and that sort of thing, or the Cloverleaf development. How are they, other than listening to what we talk about on our committee?
I don't know what the legal requirements are when it comes to closing a bridge when a county needs. I don't know. I mean, I'm so close to it because I'm talking to the county often. I don't know publicly if they have a requirement, an obligation. I don't know.
Bob, is there any, thing that, in other words, can we put out a notice from Hamilton Township that it's being closed? Or the
I think it
bridge
goes
is?
down on Nixle, doesn't it?
We could do that, sure. But the county has a process where they do that as well.
They do it as well?
They do.
Well, I don't know. A lot of people I talked to said they had no notification. So they were really angry about it.
In my experience, Atlantic County is very careful about that. I'm surprised to hear you say that.
I don't know. Maybe they weren't looking in the right place. I don't know. Because people have a confusion as to what is county, what is Hamilton Township. And so therefore, maybe they wouldn't automatically think it was county. I don't know.
Any project that I have dealt with that Atlantic County was in charge of, they have been meticulous about notice. So I don't know what happened here, frankly. I'm surprised to hear you say it.
Yeah, it was from a committee for Woods Landing, you know.
I've communicated a couple times with Woods Landing's community manager, and she sent out emails to everybody in Woods Landing
Well,
with the status of the project, not
that's 'cause
not
you
the
live
shutdown,
there.
but the status of the project.
Okay, so you did communicate too. Well, I don't know. Some people don't read their emails, I guess.
Steve, that
They just like to complain.
start date of late December, is that the start date where they would begin the utility bridge work?
Yes, yes.
All right, so that's not even really getting into the meat of the project.
No, the utility bridge will take 4 months to complete.
Right.
In a perfect world, they will start the middle of December, and it's a 4-month process. There's no alternate bids on the process, on the project. They put a bid out for a single contract, so in a perfect world, 4 months starting the middle of this December for the utility portion of this. All right. Old Egg Harbor Road Bridge is on the county schedule to be completed on November 9th. They may slip up to about a week. I spoke to them today. I was out there today. You could, I wouldn't recommend this, but you could actually walk across the structure right now. They
Strike that from the record.
What I've been working on with the county is their limits of paving. They have so much equipment out there, and they've torn up, well, they know that there's some damage to our roads, so they've agreed to extend it beyond their original contract limits. And I asked the county, I said, once their equipment is out of there, I'd like to take a closer look at it because they're covering a portion of the road. So I'm gonna make sure that both approaches get paved to our satisfaction.
Okay. What was that date again, they're finished?
It was, November 6th is their,
6th.
November 6th is the date they're saying that they were gonna, but they told me today it's gonna slip up to about a week.
Okay.
Tavistock, I mentioned it earlier, they're going to start next week on the concrete work. They have 25 sections of sidewalk that need to be replaced. We found a few more inlet structures where the hoods are cracked. They're going to replace those, and the fencing around a basin. So they'll start all of that work next week. So that's moving along. I have in my report the reforestation plan. This is where we found 24 trees that were dead. We're installing 12 replacement trees of a larger caliper, 3.5 to 4 inch. That's going to occur this Friday or next Monday out at War Memorial Park.
Great.
Very good.
Brett's already been out there with Chris Carey from my office. They've staked out the location. Brett was able to track down the electrical plans, underground electrical plans he helped me with. He's marked some of the sprinklers out there, so we're hoping this will be seamless when they go to work Friday or Monday.
What kind of trees are they going to put there?
They're native trees, tulip, poplar, red maple, and the other one is a type of oak. So they're all native trees.
Okay. Catalpa?
Pardon me?
Catalpa? No?
I don't think so. Lenape Plaza, Mr. Sandman talked about that. I think he used the word monstrous in his letter to the three owners out there. The pothole is actually 8 inches deep. I painted it with some orange paint around the edge of it. It's visible now when the conditions are dry, but when it fills up with rain, it's flush to the surface, and it's extremely dangerous. You can't see the pothole. There's actually a second one out there now too. Verizon building, if you've been down Main Street, a bench was installed, one Victorian bench was installed in front of the Verizon building. There's 5 more that are coming in the near future, we hope. So that was a bench that was approved. It's a Victorian style bench, so more to come.
Looks good there, yeah.
Thank you.
I've agreed to
Finally,
pay
we're
for one of those
dressing that
benches.
area up.
Pardon me, Bob?
I have agreed, my law firm has agreed, and my family has agreed to pay for one of those benches.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we've tried to do this entire thing without using any funding from the township. It's kind of a community thing, once we got Verizon on board. So appreciate, and, when it's all done, we'll talk about it some more.
Okay.
But thank you all for your help. It's a big deal. It's been a big eyesore for a lot of years, and hopefully those trees keep growing.
I'm a little concerned because
Are we
the
watering
trees
them?
look a little stressed with this, the drought that we've had this fall. So I will take a look at them in the spring. If they're not thriving, I know exactly who to call it, Verizon
Okay.
and Global, they're a landscape contractor, so.
Yep.
Okay. The last time I just wanted to report on, I finally got a notification today from Verizon on Main Street by Linwood Avenue and Main Street. If you remember that in the wintertime, we always have that water seeping out of that manhole.
Yeah.
They're going to start on Wednesday on that manhole. There's 2 things I'm asking them to do. Install a drain from that manhole to a storm inlet, but that manhole, there's 2 manholes there that need to be flush with the surface. Every time a truck hits that, Guy Tunney and Sue Marks and Ted Marks, or they could really, they feel it inside their house. So they're going to start on that work on Wednesday, and we'll make sure they do it properly.
Do you know anything about the airport creating like touch and goes and it affecting our township residents? They say their windows are shaking and stuff like that. I don't know if we have anything to say there.
I don't know. Rodney, do you know?
Yeah, I don't think they're touch and goes. They're some kind of explosion that the,
Fire marshal.
no, not the fire marshals, the security people, the TSA.
PSA.
Yeah, and then apparently they say they have to do it this way. It was supposed to have stopped last December, and it started back again. I don't know how long it's supposed to continue now. Have you heard anything?
Not this year.
I could ask. I could look into it.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
That
That
concludes
was-
my report.
Steve, one more thing, the road program for 2019.
It's behind. It's done. It's once we get the okay on the specs, it's going to go out to bid.
Think we'll make some of it this
It'll
year?
go out to bid. It'll be awarded. I don't know if we're going to have asphalt down this year. I'll do my best. I'm a little behind on that.
Okay. We'll move on to Township Committee. Judy?
Yes, we, at the skating rink, if I can say that, enjoyed going over to the Fall Festival. And, we were able to have a table there. But I don't think it was as, popular as it was in the past. And I think what we have to do is try to make sure that 2 major events don't happen at the same time. I don't know if that's possible. I think the beer event over at the park probably didn't appeal to the same people, but it did, we didn't have as much popularity with it, but it
Judy,
went
a lot
well
of
for
people
us.
didn't know about it because I think they did it on social media.
Oh,
Not that there's anything wrong with social media, but there's a lot of people that don't use social media that weren't informed of it. I mean, I was there, Art was there, John was there. We've seen a lot of interesting individuals with their setups, and there was a great amount of interest in the variety. but by the same token, probably didn't have the attendance that it could have had.
Yeah, I think a lot of the community does look forward to these events, and they enjoy them. Has become part of community, and that we should make every effort to make them successful. And I know the Merchants Association, should be encouraged on doing these, because it does. Although we have a lot of vendors that are outside the area, the people that come to this are ones who really enjoy seeing all the activity that's done. And I must say that I didn't think that it was possible to put, I don't know, if we had 3,000 people in the park, but it looked like by the time we assessed all the parking that was done. So congratulations to your event. It not only, satisfy the area, but I saw cars from Pennsylvania coming to see this event, to take part of it, and all over Delaware, all over. So hopefully some of them will say, "Hey, I like Lenape," and come and settle here. So, yeah.
Hold on.
Oh.
Let-
We had to finish.
When you're done, we got to do the rest of the.
Oh, okay. All right. And I think that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. John?
I just want to comment again on the event over at the Witchcraft event. My understanding from people I know that attended is they had a good time. It was produced very well, and they had a great turnout, which is something that you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we look for to happen out at the park after with changes that were made with the county. So I think it was a good thing to bring people to our area, and apparently from well outside the area, like Judy said. So congratulations on putting on a good event. The Merchants Association, like Judy said, had the Fall Festival. It wasn't quite attended as previous years, but it also wasn't quite as large and planned as well as previous years. So I think the Merchants Association needs to step up a little bit on what they've done in the past. I just wanted to put that on the record, because they're leaning towards that group going more towards a businessman's association rather than something that benefits the community with events. I don't agree with that philosophy, but that's the direction they seem to be taking. And I'd hate to see it jeopardize what's been going on for years in some really great events put on through the township by the Merchants Association. And other than that, that's it, Mayor.
Thank you, John. Roger?
Yeah, I'd like to just, Chief, I'd like to congratulate you and the department on their accreditation at the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police hearing on October the 10th. That's always says a lot about the department and what you've been able to accomplish there. The other thing is there's going to be active shooter training on November the 18th for all elected and appointed officials. If any of you haven't attended it in the past, we had it here, I guess, how many years ago, Mike? 4 or 5 maybe? And I think it was really beneficial, and I think it's probably now is a good time for everyone who has concerns to attend, because they're very enlightening and they usually put on a good program. I see that.
Awesome.
So it's going to be a while yet, huh?
Yes.
We gonna make it with the way they put the miles on these police cars?
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. That's it, Chair, Mayor, thanks.
Thank you. Rodney?
Yes, I attended the Atlantic County League of Municipalities meeting recently, and the main topic of discussion was the upcoming election. This election is going to be somewhat unique because many people were sent vote by mail requests, which they didn't ask for. And when they come to vote, some of them will find that they can't vote in person with the vote by mail application out there. So that's going to create a big demand perhaps for provisional ballots, and it's going to be rather sloppy. So there's a lot of concern about that, and that's what the discussion was about. That's all I have.
That's it? All right, I just want to real quick say, I agree with John in his comments about what the Merchants Association does. They've done a great job over the years, and I hope they continue in the direction that they've always been. With that, I want to turn over the rest of my time to Mr. Henderson here, who has brought us the Witchcraft, which was a pretty successful event, so step up.
John Henderson, Good Time Tricycle. So Saturday was Witchcraft. It was our inaugural Halloween beer festival. We called it an interactive experience with mystical encounter with brews and spirits. When we initially, probably about a month ago, we sat here and we had to, you got to do things first before you can fix them. We assumed that we'd see, 200 to 2,500 people, and that's essentially what we did. So everything we pretty much put out there, we think we hit the mark on. There's some changes to the event that we think, for flow, and Chief and I had spoken earlier. We probably want to see a couple more details out there as far as traffic and whatnot goes. Spread the event out. I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to attend. I've done upwards of 300 events now in my 20-year career. It was probably one of the best first-year events that we've ever executed. We had, like Judy had said, we had members from the community out. I got overwhelmed with emails from people who lived across the street, people who came from Delaware, Maryland. We had some folks from California that I had a conversation with. The event flowed very well. The entire vibe of the evening was very, very positive, and it showed the park and Mays Landing probably to a different group of customers. After the event, my daughter said, "You guys want anything to eat? I'm at Paragon." Apparently, and my daughter's boyfriend is one of the bartenders at Paragon. It was one of the single biggest nights that Paragon's had since they've owned it. What this does is it shows that we've created, and I believe we've created, a destination event that is, over the next couple of years, is going to do what we did with the Atlantic City Beer and Music Festival and the Seafood Festival. It's going to drive new consumers into Mays Landing. We did, total exact ticket sales were 2,338 bodies. That doesn't include the comp stuff, as well as, the exhibitors, which there were 78 total exhibitors that came in to be a part of the program. People left smiling. Every moving part worked. Just as, we said it would. Of course, there's, a couple snafus. And speaking to the park rangers, like, for example, we probably needed a couple more bathrooms. A few folks got caught relieving themselves in the woods because there were lines for the bathrooms, stuff like that. Everything was affixed. Like Judy said, the little glasses, we've got to look at those as far as how do we maintain or how do we keep people from breaking them, right? We didn't have as many breakage in the event as we did outside of the event. And my team, the park looks exactly like it looked before we got there. So you don't even know we were there. We were really, really happy that we were embraced by I'm a resident, I live here. We were very happy to be embraced, and so many people showed up in costumes. People left responsibility. Did we have any DUIs or anything of that nature? So 3,000 people are drinking, and we didn't have any DUIs. So Lyft and Uber, we've had conversations with Lyft and Uber today. Between the beginning of the event and the end of the event, there were over 180 Lyft and Ubers that came from the space. We utilized 16 total jitneys that came from in and around Atlantic County. As far as bodies that went through, we really didn't have any issues, like physical altercations, the things that you'd be concerned about at a beer festival. I've done a beer festival for 15 years. It's something we're always concerned about. Didn't happen. The messaging and everything was so positive that people were high-fiving all night long. We had well over 600 people show up in costume. Everything flowed very well. Now, there's a lot of changes. I think, Judy, you probably saw it. We had a line that went past the skate area to get in the initial beginning. So we figured out how to kind of bottleneck everybody and get everybody in at once. But really, I want to say thank you. Thank you for embracing the event. I definitely think it's an annual event. As it stands right now, we're looking to do the event October 17th, 2020, with a rain date of October 24th. We are going to cap the event. So thinking of the event going, well, is it going to turn into a 5,000 person event, a 10,000 person event? It's not. We're going to keep it a 3,000 person event. Okay. And this will help us kind of control the customer, right? So if they had a great time, the first customer to get the option to buy tickets are people who've already attended. So now we're kind of controlling that customer database. Like, you had a good time, you were a well-behaved customer, you had fun, buy this ticket, buy this ticket. Our median age ended up being 30 years old. So it wasn't, and I was surprised how many, guys with gray beards were running around having a good time. It wasn't a 21-year-old, frat party or anything that, again, there were assumptions that it could be that. And we advertised specifically to women 25 plus, and it brought out exactly the crowd we wanted to. So we're very, very pleased. This is my second annual event. So we do the Dragon Boat Race as well as this, and we're hoping just to keep that momentum and drive bodies through the market. So I just want to say thank you, and open it up for questions. If you guys had any questions about the event, how it ran, operationally, that's what I'm here for. Well, it's still fresh on my mind.
Did you do all your advertising on Facebook or selectively, or how did you select?
So when we do our
32,
we cast kind of a different net. So we have access. We have a database that we've accrued over 20 years of events and customers that we initially give the first cast to, and that right out of the gate sold over 1,000 tickets for us. Then we started to kind of go county by county by county. Every week we would do a different county. Again, we target women 25 plus, because that's who actually buys tickets. If you go through a lot of them, and Fred, you've probably seen this with the Food and Wine Festival. Women are ticket purchasers. They are schedulers. They're doing the booking. It worked out well. First we started here. We wanted to let people at home know, hey, here's what's happening, get your tickets now. And then we actually moved to Hamilton and then towards Atlantic City, trying to keep it out of Atlantic City because that really wasn't our customer base. And we found that, we were driving people from all over. Delaware was big for us as well. Delaware was actually a really strong market. And we found people after the fact were visiting local businesses. We had a couple people that were talking about going to the event in the park and then over to Witchcraft. So we're really, just really proud of the program we created, and we do believe that over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be known as like a destination event, very similar to what like Six Flags created without 5 billion people. Our number for the foreseeable future will be a comfortable 3,000 people.
That's great.
Okay. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
I open the floor to the rest of the public. Stride.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to return to 3B if I could, signs in Memorial Park. First, I'd like to say the township several years ago spent thousands, I'm not sure how many, but many thousands of dollars on a sign at the Sugar Hill Circle. And I think, well, it's not a circle anymore, but you know what sign I'm talking about. To advertise for, I don't know what the criteria is, but for nonprofits and local organizations to advertise events, and it's a couple of blocks away from Memorial Park. I know you've worked on the Verizon building, trying to get that looking pretty good, and apparently you're being successful there. The issue of signs being placed virtually all over the township has been a problem. I have to say that Hannah and Debbie have made great progress in getting signs off the trees, telephone poles, and just placed everywhere. Literally, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of signs around the township, so we're making some progress there. That being said, still there are banners and signs in Memorial Park, and so it turned out not too long ago now there's 2 columns that are in the ground and banners or signs placed across them. So it obviously piqued my interest. I asked through an Oprah to Rita if there are any zoning approvals for the park. There were none. I asked Brad who put the sign up. He didn't know. I spoke with Mike and Hannah. Nobody knows. Okay. They kicked the ball down the court to Bob. So now, presently, we have a illegal sign in Memorial Park. And it's starting to look, and of course it's my opinion, but it's looking pretty ratty right there in the center of town. There's signs all over the fences. Now we have an 8x8 sign in Memorial Park. It's clearly against township ordinances. I think Mike told me the other day that he gave permission for the sign to remain. I don't know what authority our administrator has to grant an approval for a sign. I thought that was up to the zoning board and the planning board through a normal process. So there is a issue with an illegal sign that seems to be growing and more signs appearing. So there is an issue of illegality or an ordinance that is being violated. It seems you're going to pursue the issue, but what happens to the violation that is currently in existence in a public park? And they kicked it down to you, Bob. Recently. So my question is, where does the township stand on the enforcement of the zoning sign ordinance, just for no other reason to keep your credibility when Hannah and Debbie go out to other people who are violating the sign ordinance to clean up the town? How can you maintain some credibility with your own property having a blatant, and it's pretty good size violation? How do you go out and ask other people to conform to our ordinance? That's not my ordinance, it's everybody's ordinance. I happen to agree with it because it has gotten out of hand. So I would urge you to do something to, if no other reason, to keep your credibility when it comes to not just the signed ordinance, but virtually all ordinances, and there's tons of them. And, it used to be that township committee people got a book that was about that thick before the internet. So now it's very easy to research them, but your job really, township committee, everything you do is based on the law and an ordinance and statutes. And, you got to take care of your own town. And that's what those ordinances are. And if you look at the intent and purposes of most all ordinances, it's to protect businesses, in residences and the welfare of the town. So I don't know what's going on in Memorial Park, but it's looking pretty shabby, and I'm just asking you to just simply enforce the sign ordinance there. If you want to change it, you can change it. Okay, that's your option. You can do whatever you want. But for now, there's a complaint, there's an issue, and I'm hoping you'll just reasonably address it.
We will address it.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second?
Fred, do you want to tell us a little more about the Halloween parade?
Yeah, okay, sure.
All right, first of all, I'll explain about, when you advertise things, people come, all right? So when you didn't get anybody in the park this weekend, there was a reason for that. There was no advertisement, there's no direction. Normally, I would fill that park with 400 or 500 people easily in an hour. Now, the only thing that I'm responsible for right now is the Halloween parade, right? It's what I do all the advertising, do the marketing for that. At this present time, we've got it filled. I mean, there's currently 5,000 or 6,000 people watching this thing. I've got a load of floats coming. We've got 4 bands. We've got things going. Coast Guard, I'm on the edge with it. Almost there. I think we're going to get them. But but it's all about the marketing of anything that we do in this town. Right. If you want to do something, you have to market this thing, right? And unfortunately, the Merchants Association's going a different way, and I'm not so happy about that. That's why I resigned as the president, because it was going the wrong way for me. So I couldn't. It's always about the people. It's not about the business. It's about business bringing community together. That was the design of the Merchants Association. But we need, it needs to be changed. But anyway, that's what the reasons why they didn't have any. But the reason why we're going to have a good Halloween parade is I advertised it. So it's all going to go well as long as the weather's good. And I think the route's going to be perfect. Actually, I think it's going to do the township great. And I'm hoping that maybe that bridge will still have the blacktop on there to get it through, maybe or maybe not. But it's got to be better than any other year because we're not closing down multiple amount of roads. So I think the chief really did a good job of thinking that one out, and I think it's going to be all good. So it's good. It's as long as the weather, whoever prays for the weather in this township, pray for it. That's all. It's going to be a good winter.
No rain.
And that's, I agree, the advertising these events are held by people, by groups that, really have nothing to do with the township, more or less, that are trying to bring people to this area to showcase our town.
Yeah, and we did
that
it in the
simple.
past. We did it with the wine festival. So we brought, the wine festival, it was brought by the Merchants Association to that park, right? And it was an effort to get it there.
Yep.
And we got it there. But guess what? As soon as you brought somebody into that park, look at the events that come to that park.
Right.
John Henderson got there because of me, right? It's because, you know, we got together with John Henderson as a Merchants Association to help us. And once he found out about that park, he saw our event, he had to come in. Now, he's a guy that knows how to do this stuff, right?
Right.
So he brought these 3,000, 4,000 people into your park, and he brought people into the restaurants afterwards. That's what we were after the whole time. So those are the kind of events that we did as the Merchants Association. It started this off, but we did it in the right way.
Exactly, exactly. And it has helped a lot.
Yes, it
It's
has.
showing people our town, what we have to offer. I mean, hearing that, you know, Paragon had a great night that night, well, that's what these events are for, to bring people
Absolutely.
in.
You know,
And,
the gasoline stations filled their cars up, and everybody did well. And that's what it's for. If he does more in this township, you're better off. You know,
Absolutely.
some of these events do well, and some don't. But you know, with a guy like John Henderson coming into town and doing these things for us,
Yep.
the Merchants Association doesn't have to do it. They're doing it right. He knows how to get everybody in and out quickly.
Yep.
And look how many people got there because he knew how to market it.
Right.
You know, most of the stuff that we do in this town, we don't market correctly. We just don't. Even, I got to say this, right? So, if you ever go to Google and the Township of Hamilton, guess what comes up? Hamilton Township up in North Jersey.
oh, yeah.
Mercer
Yeah.
County.
So whoever's
Done.
doing our marketing to this
thought-
committee,
I just got an
they
email.
suck.
Say the
They
nudist-
really suck
nudist
at it, really.
colony.
I just got an email, a lengthy email from a lady today, and I realized none of the streets she was talking about are in our town. So,
Yeah, none of them. Only because we don't Google, market it, it's not marketed correctly on Google.
That's right.
So if they knew how to market, if you hired somebody to know how to market things, you may be able to sell some properties.
yeah.
you
And
know,
I want
in
to
the
go on the
industrial
record
park.
that
But
this
it's all about the
Hamilton
marketing.
Township's a lot nicer
Yeah,
than the one up north.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to speak?
And a motion to close.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We will adjourn to executive session. We have motion to adjourn to.
I'll make that motion.
Motion second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
I got it. Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. 1, PBA Local 77 Sergeants Collective Bargaining. 2, retirement of Michael Jacobs, Township Administrator, Personnel. 3, modified proposed settlement agreement, Santor Gravel Pit, Lincoln General Matter, attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that the governing body may reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight. Be it further resolved that the results of said executive session shall be made known as soon as the basis for confidentiality is no longer confidential.
A shame.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have 3 resolutions to do here. We'd start with the sergeant's contract, please.
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that the collective bargaining agreement between the Township of Hamilton and the New Jersey State Policemen's Benevolent Association Mainland Local Number 77 Sergeants Unit dated January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2022 is hereby ratified, and that the mayor is authorized to execute same on behalf of the township.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call? We have any questions on that first? Seeing no questions, Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, our next resolution is on Santori gravel pit.
Be it resolved that the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton hereby approves the proposed settlement provided to Township Committee on October 21st, 2019, relating to the Santor Gravel Pit Lincoln General Matter in the form and substance presented by the Solicitor's Office, and delegates to the Solicitor's Office the authority to agree on an escrow agent and ensure that all persons and entities required to be parties by the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania are parties to the settlement agreement. Be it further resolved that upon resolution of those issues by the Solicitor's Office, the mayor is authorized to execute the settlement agreement on behalf of the township. Be it further resolved that the Township Committee delegates to the mayor, in consultation with the township's zoning, planning, and code enforcement officials, the authority to agree to minor modifications to the fencing project in order to assist respondents in meeting applicable legal requirements, so long as the general design, effectiveness, and intention of the project remains the same. Be it further resolved that this agreement shall be made public only if and when executed by all parties.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Thank you. We move on to the resolution concerning the replacement of the township administrator.
Whereas the Township of Hamilton Committee has determined to seek the guidance of the Local Assistance Bureau, a professional service provided by the New Jersey Department of Local Government Services, and whereas the Local Assistance Bureau was created specifically for aiding municipalities in a variety of professional services, including but not limited to the hiring of certified/qualified professionals, and whereas there is no cost for this service, and now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey as follows. 1, a request signed by the mayor shall be sent to the Local Assistance Bureau in the New Jersey Department of Local Government Services, advising of the Township of Hamilton's desire to have assistance in its search for a new township administrator. 2, the Township of Hamilton requests the Local Assistance Bureau assign Edward Sestelli, a former township administrator who is well acquainted with the demographics and unique needs of the Township of Hamilton, to assist in this endeavor. Be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to request professional services in the advertisement, recruiting, selection, screening, and interview process performed by the New Jersey Department of Local Government Services, Local Assistance Bureau, for the hiring of a new township administrator.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, Rita, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Motion for adjournment is in order.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it.